All right, hey guys, today we are going to look at painting pumpkins for your assignment. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to start with drawing a pumpkin. All right, so just like an apple, we're actually going to do today we're doing two pumpkins. So it's going to start looking like an apple to start with, but it's going to be very round. So I'm just going to curve it here and then round my edges or round up my outside. And if you notice, I'm drawing with a pencil. We are going to be painting these. But it's always good to do your sketch in pencil first. And then if there's any areas that are dark, I can always go in and line that up. All right. So I want to go ahead and draw a stem. There we go. And then I can come back here and put this here. And then I'm actually going to start with my middle and draw kind of like a hot dog shape. So it's going to oval right here and then come right here. All right, and if at any time you need to pause this video or rewind it so you can see where I started from, you can. All right, so I rounded it here, and then on each side, I'm gonna round it to that middle section. So I'm gonna go right here and I'm gonna round it. This is how I like to draw pumpkins. Here we go. And then, there we go. All right, so for those of you that know me, when I draw, I like to sketch. And the reason why I have sketch lines, so instead of some of you who would rather do this, that's fine, but for me, I can't do that. So I have to sketch, and what that does is little sketch lines is where I'm measuring it as I'm drawing it. So that's how my brain works with drawing. So what I like to do when I draw like that, I need to come in and I'm gonna clean up my lines. That way when I start painting, I see more solid lines. Okay, so, and then if I want to, I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna curve these. All right, so there's one pumpkin. So I want to show you how to draw a pumpkin, but for the assignment, you're gonna do two pumpkins. So I could either line it up where the bottom of it fits right beside this, or I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually gonna draw some measuring lines. So these are going to be erased. I'm gonna draw them lightly. And then, since I want the bottom of my pumpkin here, so I'm gonna start with a circle on this one, so that way I can get my measurement right. And that's okay. I just want it up just a little bit, or I can put it beside it. That's up to you, how you want to do it. So then up here, I'm going to come back up here to the top. I'm going to curve it like I would an apple. I'm gonna erase this. All right, and then I'm gonna draw my stem where it's kind of skinny at the top and then it fattens out. And then, all right, so I have it drawn, I have this part drawn, so my next step's going to be, I want to put in my pumpkin line. So we're going to go back to the oval. I want to erase my top to make sure it's curved. And then when we talk about overlapping, I'm not drawing this line through it. I'm actually going to start it back up right here. And there we go. So now I have my pumpkins. Now I'm going to fix my top. And then if I do that, I'm going to draw all these lines. Basically would go from my stem. So now I have two pumpkins. If I want to put them on a table, I would draw a horizontal line. That would go like this. But you guys do not have to do a background. All I want you to do is paint your pumpkins. So, are pumpkins all one color? No. They are orange though, but there's several that are different shades of orange. All right, so, watercolors. I want to take this. If you have not done this already, you need to come in and wipe it out. Make sure you have your bowl of water. Make sure you have your watercolors. Make sure you have your paper towels. All right, so I have my paper towels, I have my watercolors, and then this is dry, so we want to put water in it to wake it up. So I'm going to take my brush, let's put some water in each of these. All right, in the video, just to kind of reiterate some information, we talked about painting with watercolors. Okay, you want to use water to paint with. The more water, the lighter it is. The less water, the more pigment, the darker it is. All right, so we are going to start with painting layers. And as I told you before, anything I show you how to color with besides markers, you show values. So I'm gonna get me some orange. I'm gonna get some yellow. I like that orange, but I don't want the orange that looks like your painted buckets. I'm actually going to put just a little bit of brown. I like that, that's pretty. But not too much, that's too much brown. So I'm gonna come back. And I really just wanna work with the water, the colors, until I can get what I need. All right, and then what I can do is I can take a piece of paper. All right, so here's my pumpkins, and I went ahead and cleaned my yellow out because I know some of you guys were probably looking at it like, oh, she's studying her yellow. All right, I also went ahead and got some fresh paper towels. All right, so what I was trying to tell you is I encourage you to get a piece of paper, test out your colors, see if you like them, and I just put orange back in my yellow because I'm special. Okay, but remember I showed y'all in the very first video how to take care of that, so we can do that. Okay, I really like this color, so we're gonna start with this color. And it would really help to do your test colors on watercolor paper or your mixed media paper because it looks a lot different. And the reason why is because the mixed media paper is thicker and it has more absorption control versus copy paper, which is already wrinkling. So, but that's what I have on hand, so that's what I'm going to use. And if you notice, I got clumsy and I smeared the paint, but that's okay because I'm going to fix it and it's going to be amazing. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to take the color, and because my shadows, so if you haven't noticed yet, you're not painting the pumpkin all like this and it's going to be all orange. You're going to paint each of these sections individually, okay? Because your shadows are actually going to be in the creases of the pumpkin, which is these little lines right here. And so I'm going to come in, I'm going to paint some orange in. I'm going to add a little bit of water. I'm going to come in on this side. I'm going to add in just a little bit of water. So now it's starting to turn a little yellow. So I want to add just a little bit of this orange with this yellow. There we go. All right, so one thing if you notice that I showed you on the other videos, these have lines, and I don't like how the color is placing down. It has lines, and it could be that I put too much pigment, so I'm going to mop some of this up, like what I showed you guys. There we go, because I don't want it to have that strong of pigment just yet, but I do want enough to show the creases in the pumpkin, because these are highlights, so all these little places are going to be highlights. Actually gonna add some water to this. I want to clean this out just a little bit. There we go. Because I put that too far in there. I'm gonna put just a little bit of pigment coming up. There we go. It's always good because anytime you do something and you're like, oh, that's not quite right, but sometimes it'll give it extra personality, and that's what makes it work. So I'm gonna put some right here. I'm gonna add just a little bit of water. I'm actually gonna come right back here. I feel like I put too much here, so I'm gonna pop this out. All right, I'm gonna let this dry. Then let me just paint this right here. There we go. All right, so I want this pumpkin to be just a little bit darker. I'm actually going to go on this side of the line, so that way I don't have to do all that mopping up that I just did. So basically on these, I'm doing the drag and pull method where I place the pigment down and I'm just adding water to pull it out and make it lighter. You also want to make sure, and I think I've talked about this, but let me pull this up here. So I'm dipping my brush in water, and if you have it where your brush is dripping off water and you're only painting like small sections, like if I were to do this, that might be too much water. So what I can do is dip my brush, slide it up against the side of my bowl, and that'll help control how much water I'm putting in this. All right, so I feel like I don't like this line, so I'm gonna paint some water on that and kind of blend it with this one. So one of the reasons why I wanted you guys to do 2 pumpkins is because you can work on painting one while the other one's drying. And hopefully that'll help some of you who get impatient, especially with art. And most of us are impatient with art if we don't really, or anything that we really don't know what we're doing. So it's understandable. All right, so I'm gonna come back here. This one's pretty much dry. I'm gonna add into this one. All right, so now I'm gonna go darker on my pigment. Now I might be able to come out and put some values. Make some darker shadows, work on those shadows. I think, let me see if I can't get this up. I meant to pick this up one and I did not. Okay, so if you notice, even if you can clean up, watercolors are forgiving to a point. They're not all the way forgiving. The thing with acrylics, a lot of people prefer acrylics because they can paint over it. You can actually take an old canvas and just gesso it and paint over it and it'll work. You can't do that with watercolor paper or watercolors. So if you mess up and you're like, that's not gonna work at all, then garbage can. Oops, too much. Yep. Let me get some more yellow. So I made some color, but it ran out. So let's see if this will, I like this. This will be good. This will work for the shadows. And it's not a white pumpkin, so I'm actually just gonna kind of put some light color in this. But I still want, remember what we talked about with layers, you want some layers to shine through. But if you look at it and you say, well, that's a white pumpkin with orange shadows, well, then we gotta fix that. Because it's an orange pumpkin and they just have strong shadows. I'm gonna paint my stem last. All right, I'm gonna let this dry. I'm gonna come over here to this pumpkin. We're using this dark orange color. All right, and I'm going to fill in my creases just to make it darker. There we go. Now it's starting to look like an orange pumpkin. So, I don't know if you just noticed that I just did that. If you let your paint dry, you'll see that it creates a line. And so what I did was I took it and I scrubbed it just a little bit, not real hard, because remember, the more you play with it, the more the paper pigment's gonna come up, the fragments of the paper. And as soon as you do that, then that's when it becomes messy. So you don't wanna muddy it up. Thank you. All right, we're gonna let that dry for a little bit and I'll come back. All right, so I have my oranges in, and so now I want to come in and I want to produce a stronger contrast for my colors. Let me get the right brush. All right, here's the brush I want to use. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and work on this one just a little bit more. Not like that. Let me mix my colors. Remember, you always want to try to remember the colors that you're using. So I'm actually going to add in just a little bit of brown. This is not, I'm sorry, this is the brush I was using. I grabbed the wrong brush. Okay, so I want this little brush because that's what I got used to with painting with this. All right. I may even throw in a little bit of red, might be pretty. I'll clean that out. So I'm just going to place the color. All right, and now when I come back in, I'm gonna put some water here just to kind of, remember I said I want to bring those highlights, those shadows. With watercolor, you're emphasizing shadows. With acrylics, you're actually going to emphasize your highlights. Because for me, the way I teach it, it's easier to put your highlights in. I'm just going to come around, add in some water. And so basically it's about working with color until you feel like it is successful. But what I like to try to teach is strong contrast. So the stronger the contrast, the more realistic you can make it, and it helps. All right, so just remember, if you need to smooth out, add water. I don't like this line, so I'm gonna smooth this out with some water. All right, so I think I'm done with this one. Now I want to work on this one. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of orange to it, just to kind of make it a little bit more live and not so yellow. So it's just about layering with darker pigments and working through. I really need to put some over here because it's not. There we go. I still want it light, but it doesn't need to be white. So if you notice, me putting this orange on top of this yellow still makes it a different shade of pumpkin versus the one that's just orange. All right, so my final, I think I'm done with this. I like it, looks good. I do want to add a little bit right here and right there. And I'm gonna put just a little bit right here. All right. Now I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna mix some brown with this yellow. And if you want to draw some leaves and paint some leaves, you can to go with it. Some people do. It's up to you. I'm really just looking for your pumpkins. And in case you did not read the update on the page, all art lessons that I teach, the main assignments are graded with rubrics. So please keep that in mind. So when I say you must show values, you must layer, you need to follow directions, we're painting with watercolor. If you draw your pumpkins and you color them with color pencil, you will get points taken off for use of wrong medium and not following instructions. If you paint your pumpkins with watercolor, but they're solid orange and there's no values, it doesn't see where you try, you will get points taken off, okay? All right, so there we go. And then let's just say you're like, I'm so used to Miss McClaney's class, I don't like them floating. I'm gonna come in with some blue. I like blue, would be really pretty with this. And I think you could probably put a shadow under them. And so what I just did is I just made like a grayish color and just wanted to put some shadows around it. I don't like things floating. I learned that in art school, not art school, but just taking art classes and with other art teachers, and they just kind of teach you, you don't want to just let things float. So I like to put them down. Okay, so there you go. And then let's just say, I'm like, it's done. I think it's amazing. And you're so proud of yourself that you want to sign it. I'm going to take my brush, roll it around in some paint. And then I sign it. You can do it with a pencil if you want to. All right. Oops. So there you go. Happy pumpkins.